I can't keep hoping that my 7-year-old is going to be able to say mom or I love you. It's killing me to keep hoping that he's going to be able to do this. And it was not a week later.
Welcome to Pathways to Purpose, Stories from the Freedom Collective, where we journey alongside remarkable women who have dared to follow that little internal voice and create a life that's in alignment with who they truly are. If you're at a place in your life where you're asking yourself, what's next? Who am I? And what do I really want? Go to IamTheFreedomCollective.com and grab yourself the video series, The Power Within. This resource, it's free right now because I want to help empower as many women as I can. It'll give you 7 keys that were never taught in school or university, so you can gain a new level of clarity and start creating a life and work that reflects who you truly are. Now, I'm excited. Let's get into this incredible story. Today, I have the privilege of welcoming an extraordinary guest whose life story resonates with courage, creativity, and the power of finding one's voice in the most unexpected places. She's a mum to 3 wonderful kids with special needs, a passionate podcaster, and a beacon of hope for many. She's harnessed the power of podcasting, not just as a medium of communication, but as a lifeline to purpose and possibility. Through her work, she's not only carved out a space for herself on the global stage, but has also lit a way for others to follow. So sit back, enjoy, and help me welcome a woman who truly embodies what it means to live a life aligned with your true self. Karaleigh, thank you so much for taking time to speak with us today.
That was so beautiful. I love your intro.
You were so worth it. I am looking forward to hearing so much about your story. There's so much depth. There's so much challenge. There's so many little pieces. So can you start with sharing with us who you are?
Yeah, I'm Karaleigh. I'm like, which one do I start with? I'm like all of us. There's a lot of pieces to me.
There's
I know. We're all so...
titles. You wear all the titles.
I know.
And mum, podcast.
Yeah, I'm a speaker. I'm a singer. I'm a podcaster. I'm a mom. I feel like mom's kind of the big one that takes over all the rest of them, but that's...
Important one.
Yeah. I'm a podcast coach. Yeah, there's all sorts of different hats that I wear. I'm a vacuumer, really good at that. All of the things.
So you didn't start there, though. You didn't start as a podcaster and,
No.
coach and all of those things. Can you share that moment? I say moment, but I know that there's never just one moment. It's a series of moments, right? Around finding your voice, realizing that there was something more for you. What was happening?
So I've always wanted to be a singer. Since I was really little, I had my first solo when I was 8 years old, and my parents are singers. Well, my dad's a big singer. My mom's like, no, I sing harmony and that's it. But I've always wanted to be on the stage, the pretty sparkly princess, like the lead, like that was me. I was like, no, that's what I want to do with my life, is be a singer. And then I got married really young and I had 3 kids, and life just kind of went really fast without me. And it was sort of like whoosh, all of a sudden I was married for 10 years to love of my life, and he was disabled, and I had 3 kids and they all had special needs. And it was like, oh, what happened? And all of a sudden it was like, I can't be a singer and be a mom, because how am I supposed to take care of my kids and also be on stages? Like, that's impossible. And so I kept trying to put out that dream, put out that fire that was burning in me. I kept trying to put it out because I was like, that's not possible. Can't do that. Plus I was really living in survival mode because my husband, we had been married. We've now been married for about 15 years. So for about 10 years of our marriage, I was his caretaker. And he has something called familial episodic ataxia. So this wasn't like a car accident or a big event. This was like it's a genetic chromosomal defect where it slowly got worse and worse and worse. And he started collapsing, and he would start trembling, and he'd collapse, and I'd have to carry him to bed, and he would stutter and he couldn't speak, and I couldn't leave him with the kids because any sort of stress would bring on another episodic attack. And the kids were really stressful because they all have autism. And it was really a tough time. So at that time we lived in Texas, and it was this really crazy period of like, we didn't have any income because he was working, and then he had to work less, and he had to work less because he kept collapsing at his job until he couldn't work anymore. And we had no income, and then we were applying for SSI, and it was just, I kept trying to make money, but I was also, not only was I trying to help him, and he was constantly going to the doctor, but then we also had the 3 kids where, my youngest was he was born in 2014, and we left Texas in 2018. So this was all through the time when my youngest was like 1 and 2 and 3. But then my older 2 had their diagnoses, and they were going to school full time and then having therapy every afternoon for 4 hours. So I would go with them to therapy all afternoon and with my baby, and it was crazy, this whole like life that I was leading. And it was like, I'm supposed to be trying to make money with some side business and also singing, and it was like, no, my dreams got put on the back burner. They were impossible. So the beginning of like my story is 2018, when I had this, my husband and I had met at BYU in Provo, Utah.
What's BYU?
It's a college. It's a college in Utah. And we'd gotten married there. And so we both had this feeling that we needed to go back to college and finish our degrees. So this is several states away. His parents lived in Texas, and they were helping us all the time because my husband was in and out of the hospital with his disability. Like every month he was hospitalized. Like it was really constant. Yeah. And so in 2018 was when he finally got approved for SSI, which is disability income from the government.
Okay.
And we'd had this really strong feeling, this intuition, like we're very religious, this knowing that like we needed to move back to Utah to finish our degrees at BYU at college, because we had left without finishing them. And my impression over, the period of time that I'd had this was like, that's crazy. We'd have to leave all the doctors. We'd have to leave all the therapists. We'd have to leave my in-laws who've been helping us so much, because my parents lived in California. They didn't live in Utah. We didn't have any family there. We wouldn't have any help. We'd have to start all over. I was like, no thanks, God. That's crazy. Pass on that one. Plus we didn't have the money, so sorry. And then he got approved for SSI. And I was like, oh, now it's possible. I guess maybe, God makes a way, right? And so I was praying one day, and I was going, okay, like, how is this supposed to work? Like, are we going to be okay? Like, we're going to be leaving everything. We're going to be leaving the help and the doctors and everything we know, all of our support systems. And I knew that we were supposed to go. And I was like, okay, like, but are we going to be okay? And I got this really crystal clear answer. Like, it doesn't usually happen. Like, but I got this really clear answer that it's not just going to be okay. It's going to be amazing. And then what followed was like the worst year of our lives. So we took this huge leap, and we moved to Utah, which is like a 24-hour drive. We moved halfway through 2018. We had so many trials along the way, trying to find a house from that far away. And we'd been broke for so long. But we had this SSI now. And so we found a place to live, and we went back to college. And so it was my husband and I, full-time college students with 3 kids at 3 different schools. And
wow.
Yeah, because my My daughter, my oldest, was in, I think, third grade or second grade. She was 8. And then our second, Joshua, was in first grade. He was 7. And then our youngest was in preschool. He must have been 3 or 4. And it was insanity trying to keep all of that balanced. But the thing that happened that was the most life-changing was we moved around August. And in October, so just after moving, we experienced something that just changed the entire dynamic of our entire family. So I have to paint this picture first of my second, Joshua, who was 7 at the time. Joshua's severely autistic, and at the time he was completely and utterly nonverbal. Like, he didn't have a single sound that meant anything. And this was my child who, I mean, I could not take my eyes off of him because it would be unsafe. This is my kid who we had bolts up and down the front door because he would open the front door and run out the door and go open somebody's car while they were still driving it down the street. Like, we would go into a parking lot and he would be out of his seatbelt before I could unbuckle mine and out the front door of our car running through the parking lot. This was my wild child who it took every ounce of my energy to try to keep him safe. It was, and so he was losing all of his therapy by us moving up there. And I had what I call my Facebook meltdown of 2018, where I went on Facebook Live and I just sobbed because we had lost all of his speech therapy and we'd lost all of his ABA therapy, and he was completely nonverbal. And I was like, I give up. I cannot keep hoping and praying, and I can't keep having my 3-year-old pray every single night that his brother will have a voice. We've been doing this for 7 years and he's not making any improvements. I can't keep hoping that my 7-year-old is going to be able to say Mom or I love you. It's killing me to keep hoping that he's going to be able to do this. I can't keep doing it. And I went on and cried and had this whole thing. And it was not a week later when he got so sick. So sick. And it's one of those things that the image is plastered into my mind that I'll never forget, where he walked out of his bedroom. It was the first Saturday in October, and he looked drastically different. He looked like he had lost a whole bunch of weight overnight, and he came out in just his underwear, just his pull-up, and I could see his ribs and I could see this thigh gap, and I was horrified that he looked like this. I was like, what is the matter with me? Have I just missed him losing all this weight because I've been in college and we just moved? Have I just not been paying attention to my own child? And I actually took a picture of him and sent it to his teacher at school. And I was like, did he look like this yesterday? And she's going, no, what happened? He looks like he lost a whole bunch of weight. And I had this, my brain split in half. And part of me was like, oh my gosh, he's dying. This is the end of the world. And the other half of my brain was like, kids get sick. He'll be okay. Just calm down. The rational side of me. And so he walked in the living room and he curled up in a ball and just laid there. And I was like, oh my goodness, he's not running around. He hasn't even had his medicine today and he's calm. This is a little bit of a relief. He's just laying there today. How about that? Because again, this was my never stopped bouncing off the walls wild child. And so he was sick all weekend. And by Monday morning, he was still really, really sick. And I decided to take him to the pediatrician because I was like, he's not getting any better. We got to do something. So I take him to the pediatrician, and he was so weak that I had to carry him into her office because he could not walk in on his own. And I carried him in there, and she would not even look at him. She was like, it's just a stomach bug. He's fine. And I was like, no, I've got 3 kids. This is not my first rodeo. I've done this a handful of times. I've never seen a stomach bug look like this ever. And last, the scientist, she was like, yeah, well, I mean, I guess we could do blood work, but he has autism. It's really hard to get blood from a kid with autism, so just bring him back in a few days if he's still sick, but I'm sure he's just going to bounce back. She sent us home with nothing. Completely nothing. And again, my husband and I were both full-time college students, so we're trading off who's staying home all day with the sick kid. And a couple days later, I was in my class and my husband was home, and he texted me a picture of Joshua, and he looked drastically worse. And you could, his skin was turning gray and his eyes were all sunken in. And I took one look at that picture and I was like, no. I'm done sitting here watching my kid die in front of my eyes. And I left in the middle of my class and I took him to the ER, and I had to carry him into the ER. And they took one look at him and they knew exactly what was wrong. And they were like, we need to get blood from this kid right now. And this kid who I had to carry into their office, it took a team of five full-grown men to hold him down and me to get one little drop of blood from his finger because he fought like a freaking saber-toothed tiger. And that one little drop of blood told us everything we needed to know. And he was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes because he was in diabetic ketoacidosis and he was dying. And I didn't know anything about diabetes. I was like, wait, what? My scrawny 7-year-old? No, diabetes is for old fat people. What are you talking about? Like, I didn't know anything. So they sent us off to the bigger hospital, and he was admitted for 3 days. And we get to the hospital and I'm like, you don't understand what this kid is capable of. Like, he's going to change the language on all your computers to Japanese. He's going to burn this place to the ground. Like, you don't know what he's capable of. And they were really amazing. And they had a nurse just sit at the door all night so that I could sleep, just in case Joshua woke back up and came to. And then the next day they had me, because Joshua was asleep. They had me go to parent training, like all day, so I could learn all about how every single bite of food Joshua eats, I have to pay attention to how many carbs it has and dose him for it with needles and insulin and for the rest of his life, because he's severely autistic and this is not something he's going to be able to do himself. And like, what's going to be required of me forever to keep him alive. And they let me go from this parent training, and I had my moment out with God, where I was like, hello, this is not my idea of amazing, let alone okay. I don't know what you were thinking here, but you promised me amazing. This doesn't fit for me. Like, I'm not okay with this. And the thing is that I come back to that moment over and over and over again, because that's the moment that changed my life. That's the moment. That's the moment. Because I have moments like that all the time. I have moments like that in my life all the time, where all I can see is the thing that's so horrible that's right in front of me. I can't see the next chapter. I can't see the amazing future that's in front of me. All I can see is this thing that looks like it's the end of the world. But because now I know the rest of Josh's story, I can look at whatever awful thing is happening in my life and I can go, maybe there's something amazing ahead. Maybe there's a miracle ahead and I just can't see it yet. Maybe if I give it a little bit more time. Mm-hmm. Maybe if I just wait, something will unfold that's bigger than I could ever imagine, that's more amazing. And so, we went home from the hospital, and I was definitely, struggling. This wisdom that you hear me talking about now, I didn't realize it for much longer down the road. But what happened was that Joshua was in the hospital Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and he went back to school on Monday, and he pooped in the potty for the first time in his life. He was 7, and we'd been trying to potty train him forever, and we couldn't because he wasn't eating enough. But as soon as he got out of the hospital, there's this thing that happens when kids are diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, is that they're starving after they finally get insulin because their bodies are finally working and getting what it needs. And so he was eating corn dogs. It was all he would eat. He was eating like 9 corn dogs a day. So we kept going to Costco and buying these giant boxes of corn dogs. And he was finally going to the bathroom regularly enough to be potty trained, which is something we had struggled with forever. And then within a month of his diagnosis, he could say all of his colors.
Wow.
And we'd had 0 progress over his entire life. But as soon as he had that diagnosis, his speech just skyrocketed. And within a year, I was begging him to shut up because he just talked all the time. And holy moly, today that is probably my biggest struggle, is that Josh spends most of his time demanding things from me. Like yesterday, he wanted a 2014 Honda Odyssey, and that was what he wanted from me. And so here we are, like 5 years later, and he talks all the time. And he will tell you I love you to try to get you to shut up, and he'll tell you shut up to tell you I love you. Like, he's 12 and he has some choice words that are his favorite that are inappropriate, but he loves to tell jokes and he talks all the time. And it's like, would I ever have thought that something as awful as type 1 diabetes could ever be so life-changingly miraculous? Definitely not. But then the next part of that story is that he was diagnosed in October. And in going back to college, I was like, this is my chance. This is my chance to audition for the School of Music. Again, this is the second time, because I had auditioned 10 years before and didn't get in. And I was like, this is my chance. I get to finally live my dream. So in December, I auditioned for the School of Music for opera. And I worked so hard for it, and I got through my first round of auditions, and in January I did the second round, and my voice teacher was telling me, oh, they just loved you. And I found out in February that I did not get accepted. They only let 3 or 4 people into this program. It's a really, really difficult program to get into. And I was so devastated that I thought I was never going to sing again. I thought it was that's the end of my dream. That's it for me. And it was one of those moments again where all I could see was this awful thing that had happened to me. But I was sitting there watching Josh grow and talk more and more and have another new word every day. And I was having these realizations as I was like, wait a minute. I had this whole plan for Josh, Josh plus therapy equals Josh talks, right? And then my plan for me was Karaleigh plus School of Music equals Karaleigh gets to sing. That was my game plan. Well, Josh's plan did not work out the way that I thought it would. But then he still talked, right? So then I was like, maybe it doesn't have to look the way I planned. Maybe there's another plan that I can't see yet. And I started having these realizations of I don't even like opera. I only started studying opera because back when I was 16, someone told me I was fat, and I thought the only way I could be successful in music was if I studied opera. Oh, hey, and if I got this thing that I've wanted my whole life, I would be gone from my kids all the time at rehearsals and at performances. That's not my dream. I'm not dreaming of ditching my kids all the time to go be on stage. I want to find a way to be mom still and sing. That would be the actual dream. And then wait a minute, if I got to do the thing I wanted, which is to be the star in the middle of the stage. Hold on. Somebody else would be telling me what to do the whole time. There'd be a director telling me where to walk. There'd be a music director telling me what to sing. I wouldn't get to sing my own lyrics. Somebody else would be doing my hair and makeup and telling me what to wear. I would hate that. I'd hate the whole thing. Like, that would actually be, that would not be my actual dream. This thing I dreamed of my whole life, I would hate. How much did I actually look into this dream before I just declared it my dream and worked for it for 20 years? Oh, like not at all. Maybe there was a little bit of a gift in this rejection that I thought was the end of the world. Just like there was a gift in the type 1 diabetes. Because I was able to see that gift, I was able to see the gift in this thing that for months I sobbed over. And from there, I took a leap and I took a songwriting class, and I hadn't written my own music since I was a teenager. Since somebody told me my original song sucked because I posted it on YouTube and some trolls came out. You know, the 90s trolls that were all terrible all over YouTube. I had let that take over. And instead of learning how to write better songs, I let it convince me that I wasn't good enough. I had spent my whole life waiting for somebody else to give me permission to sing, for someone else to tell me I was good enough to be on their stage, until I realized the gift in these things that I thought were the end of the world. And so I took this songwriting class and I started writing my own songs. And I was like, oh yeah, that's where I actually belonged. This whole time, I'd spent forever waiting for somebody to discover me and my voice. No one did. No one ever just discovered what a great singer I am. Instead, I learned how to produce my own music. I learned how to write my own background tracks and became like a producer. And then I produced my own album and released my own album and made my own. Just did it. I just gave myself permission to do it. And then as I was figuring out like what it was going to be called and what the theme was going to be, which my very first song on my album is Seeking Sunshine, and I was writing this song, I think I came across an ad for a podcast coach or for a podcasting course, and I was like, this is not just an album. This is a whole way of life. Looking for the sunshine, finding what's good in the negative, finding the gift in the type 1 diabetes, and finding the gift in the rejection. Oh yeah, I need to share my story in music and in word. And so I started my podcast at the same time that I started like writing my album. And now I actually have 2 podcasts, and I teach podcasting, and I write custom podcast intro songs for other podcasters. And I get to write music from home with my kids. And I get to share my voice from home. Like I have a studio in my basement, and I get to just write and produce and do the things I love, but home with my kids. Like I had never even been open to the idea that it was possible to be all of me at once, like mom and singer and speaker together. Yeah. And it turns out it's possible to be all of you. And that's kind of the moral of my story, was I just needed to wait for it all to unfold.
Yeah. That is so powerful. And there's just so many threads and beautiful, beautiful pieces of your story. The thing that is standing out to me is how important perspective is.
Yeah.
And being able to acknowledge those moments like you did with your Facebook meltdown and you know, the tantrums that we all love to have. We all have them. We have these adult tantrums, and sometimes they come out and sometimes they're in our head, right? But having those moments and having awareness for them and being able to have the moment, but then also like take a breath, take a minute. And there is a beautiful awareness that you have that I hope we can all catch. Something that I want to catch and hone even more is maybe the story's not finished yet.
There's another chapter.
There's another chapter. It's all perspective. It's all perspective. And we can only understand the journey and all the puzzle pieces when we're looking back.
Yeah.
We never get to understand them or make sense of them looking forward.
Yeah.
And that is powerful. That's a powerful little piece.
Well, and then there's one more piece I guess I should share is that, you know, as we went back to college and my husband had to walk across campus, because I guess I didn't mention he walked with a cane through all of that. Like part of his disability was that his leg would collapse from under him and he had chronic back pain and stuff like that. And he had to walk across this huge campus to be able to attend to college. And he actually ended up switching from 12 different prescription medications to medical cannabis. Anyways, he had this like miraculous kind of healing journey, and he is doing so much better now. Like, he no longer walks on a cane. He's no longer on these medications. He's been back at work for about 1.5 years. He's at the top of his company. He's actually doing so amazing. And this whole thing like helped our entire family to grow. Like, we took this major leap of faith, and as a result, like, we're all so much better for it. Even though initially, like, the first year was so much harder, like, overall, like, we've all grown so much.
And that is such a common theme for so many people that take that leap of faith, that listen to that little inner voice and step out. It takes enormous courage. It will take everything you've got to step into that place. And the misconception that we have, and that social media builds, and movies and all of these things, is that you think, okay, I have this dream, I have this little internal voice, you know, pulling me in this direction. And we somehow reason in our mind, okay, I'm going to take this step and it's going to be like this and it's going to be amazing and it's going to be, and we build this picture, and when it's not, we can so quickly chuck our little tantrum and then give up. And this is where that theme of perspective comes in, right? And that trust. And I think that is such a key piece, is when you're feeling that little internal voice that is guiding you to move in a certain direction, and you step into that place, there's a test that comes to and I feel like it's a qualifier. Are you worthy of this goal? Is the goal worthy of you? Are you willing? Are you willing to do what it takes? Are you willing to trust enough to last the distance, to move into it?
Yeah.
And your story so beautifully paints that picture of what happens when we do listen, and when we do take a moment. It's going to be bumpy. There's going to be challenges. But if we take a moment to reframe and shift that perspective and ask different questions, like, what if? All those questions that you were catching, especially around your dream. And I want to touch on that for a minute, because that's really important. When you were having all these realizations around your son's journey and your journey, and how they so beautifully intertwine, and you guys, you know, his journey was teaching you about your journey, and how he was finding his voice. And in that, it gave you the opportunity for your eyes to be open to the fact that, oh, I thought his journey was ABC. It's not. Maybe this same lesson can be taken and applied to my own life. And you did that, and understanding, okay, well, I thought my dream was XYZ. And your dream, the essence of your dream was still the same. The essence was there. And I think that's the piece that we need to all pay attention to, right? Is the essence of my dream, that reoccurring thing, that little idea, that little pull, that thing that's resonating at my core, that's always been there. That I always think about when I'm totally relaxed or having fun, or, you know, when I go to that dream space, always comes up, but I've put it on the shelf. Maybe there's another way. Maybe it's still possible. And then the other key pieces to wrap this up and to like consolidate some takeaways, you know, and feel free to just jump in. But another key piece, so one is perspective, you know, and being able to shift your perspective. Another one is understanding that there are threads of your dream that are within you that don't go away. You know, something that I say all the time, and I say to my clients, is there is something resonating at your core that you are absolutely designed to bring to life in this lifetime.
Yes.
And when you pay attention to that and follow that, it's not going to be easy. It isn't, promise. But it ties into that next piece that you mentioned, is like, I gave myself permission. I had been waiting for so long for someone else to discover me, for someone else to say, you're amazing. And we all do that. I'm a recovering people pleaser.
Yeah.
Recovering people.
Same.
So much of my life. Getting that gold star. Wanting everyone's approval. And it's like, and that actually doesn't get you to where you need to go.
Well, and if I had gotten that, like if I'd gotten a record deal, or if I had gotten into the whatever thing, like they would have expected me to do their thing, which just certainly does not involve me being a caretaker to special needs kids. Because I don't know if I mentioned, but all three of my kids are on the autism spectrum. Like they all need me in my head. Like my family needs me, and my music journey cannot look the way that any typical, you know, musician journey would look. I can't be performing every night. I can't be on stages all the time. I can't be touring somewhere. Like that can't be what it looks like for me. It just can't be. And so if I had ever gotten any of those things I dreamed of, like I would have to give up a huge part of me, and that's not a part of me I'm willing to give up.
Yeah. Can you tell us that phrase again that you said at the end of your story about realizing that you can be fully you? You just articulated it so beautifully. Can you give us that?
I think I said that you can be all of you. It's possible to be all of ourselves. And it's really about finding a creative way. Like just because no path has been, you know, trodden yet in that area, like go find a creative way to make all the parts of you come together. It's possible. And like that's what I kind of talk about in my Seeking Sunshine podcast. It's about doing what lights you up for moms specifically, because as moms, it's really easy to get sucked into the, you know, my dreams are over, I'm a mom now. Can I really get that? Because that's been my life for so long. And that's what I want to show moms, is that like it's possible. And what I've seen too for my husband and his disability, like it doesn't matter what limitations you think you have, your dreams are still possible. And there are incredible examples of people who show us that every day. You just have to realize that it's possible for you too. Yes. Yes. And then give yourself permission to even consider the possibility. Yeah. And for your story to look different than everyone else's. One of the songs that I wrote for my album, it ties all this together nicely. The chorus is, wait, maybe it doesn't have to look the way they said it did. And wait, maybe it's not too late to change your mind or change the world. Don't give up just yet. Wait. Yeah. Let those words just sink in.
I know there are so many pieces in your story, Karaleigh, that have so resonated with me and inspired me. I know that people hearing this will also be inspired. So if you're feeling that little internal pull and you're like, oh, I'm not sure what the next steps are, connect. All of Karaleigh's links are going to be in the description below. Like, connect, go listen to the podcast, connect for coaching, join the groups. Take that first little step of possibility. There's resources that I have in there as well that you can tap into, but connect and know that it's possible. You have something resonating at your core that you are absolutely designed to bring to life in this lifetime, and it's not too late. Karaleigh, thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for having the courage to pioneer a way forward for the rest of us to follow. Yeah, I just really honor you for the work that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us today. If you were inspired by that story, please check out the description below this video because it will have all of the links that you need to connect with our guest and access their incredible resources. If you're in a place where you're feeling like, yeah, I know that there is something more for me and I want to start taking those next steps, but I'm not quite sure where to start, we have got your back here at the Freedom Collective. So again, in the description below, there are links to an incredible free resource. It's a 7-part video series where I give you 7 keys that we're never taught at school, we're never taught at university. And what these keys will do is they will help to start putting those foundation pieces in place so that you can bring your life into alignment with who you truly are. Your life, your work, your dreams, the things that are resonating at your core. So check that out. Connect with our guests. They're incredible. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, please share it with them. And we look forward to sharing another story with you again shortly on Pathways to Purpose, Stories from the Freedom Collective.